Before World War II started, Germany and the United States were racing to be the first to create an atomic weapon. Albert Einstein informed President Roosevelt that the Nazis were making such advancements in warfare. This led the president to give approval of the Manhattan Project. Their goal was to create an atomic bomb before Germany. On August 6, 1945, almost 6 years after the war started and almost 4 years after America joined, we dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. 70,000 were killed instantly. 3 days later, we dropped a second on the city of Nagasaki. Those who weren't killed instantly were poisoned by radiation, which later led to death. In total, about 210,000 lost their lives to the bombing. So what led the United States to do such a thing? Some say it was because of Pearl Harbor, the attacks on the American naval base in 1941 killing 2,300 Americans, but the product of Pearl Harbor was us joining the war, not the atomic bombings. Our history books tell us it was because we wanted a quick end to the war. Germany had surrendered and all that was left were the Japanese. We had been fighting and both sides suffered many casualties. However, America had been winning the recent battles and the Japanese army was almost destroyed. America probably would have won eventually without the atomic bombs. Was America really going to drop a weapon of mass destruction just because they wanted the war to be over immediately? No. They needed a reason. Something that was cruel and damaging enough to human morale. Something that really hurt the American people. They only had one event that could be the reason: the Bataan Death March. The Bataan Death March started on April 9, 1942, and went along a peninsula in the Philippines. It was a forced march of more than 65 miles, walked by the Allied prisoners of war. The Japanese considered those who surrendered dishonorable and that fighting to your death was the correct thing to do. They treated 70,000 prisoners like animals as they marched along the Bataan Peninsula. They were given little food and close to no water. They forced soldiers to dig their own graves and be buried alive. They would beat the prisoners and force them to stay in the sweltering heat all day. Those who lagged behind were executed. Any Filipino citizens that tried to help the marchers were shot and killed immediately. By the time the prisoners reached Camp O'Donnell, only 54,000 of the original 70,000 made it. As you can see, the Bataan Death March was a cruel and inhumane atrocity, possibly the main reason the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs. The US couldn't just drop these catastrophic weapons because they wanted to end a war they were already going to win. They needed to show their opponents revenge and who had the most power. If it wasn't for the Death March, the US might not have dropped the atomic bombs.